Kolkata is a city where culture meets commerce, and the business environment is such that it seamlessly intertwines age-old tradition with new-age innovation. But how does it all happen so seamlessly? Well, we're here at the ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12 Kolkata Springboard to find out for ourselves.
This is a $220 billion economy, the city of Kolkata, at least according to some estimates. And it's also a very deeply diversified economy. So no one sector typically comes to mind. Vis-a-vis what I've just described, has our homegrown startup landscape managed to carve a significant slice of the pie? How would you characterize its significance vis-a-vis other more established startup ecosystems nationwide?
Thanks, Pooja. So happy to be here and just want to talk a bit about the evolution of the state.
Please.
Because I belong to an industrial family which has been into traditional manufacturing, tea, jute, etc. over the years. And I personally myself over the last 20 years have been involved with technology businesses or funds, as the case may be.
And the two industries perhaps couldn't be more different.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you've reinvented yourself in many ways.
Yeah. So when I came back, I finished my master's from UK in 2002. I came back, so people said, there's nothing going on in the tech space in Calcutta, and it's tough to sort of, build things here because of the cultural environment, which is very good for traditional businesses, but not so much for the new age businesses.
Fair enough.
So what I've seen in the last 10 years happening is that there's a shift in the mindset of the people who are coming back to Calcutta after studying, wherever they may be in the different parts of the country or outside the country.
So a bit of a reverse brain drain, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's got to do with the fact that now there are many more avenues for incubation or acceleration in Calcutta. Plus there are some family offices also over here. And there are sort of individuals who are investing. So, what is happening is that now, over the last 10 years, people are doing many more startups as compared to what it was 12 years ago when I started Calcutta Angels. I mean, that time we had to literally go outside and search for startups. But today, if you see the startup ecosystem, I mean, this room is quite full.
Right.
And all the events which are happening for the startups. So Subhrangshu is here, IIM Calcutta, so many events are happening in different education institutes. Chambers of Commerce have embraced innovation. A lot of the traditional businesses are also embracing innovation in their sort of manufacturing. So I think there's been a huge cultural shift, and I think the last 3-4 years in particular, I've seen a large number of startups from Calcutta also raise early stage funding, as opposed to earlier they were not being able to raise early stage funding.
Fair enough. And if we put some stats to that figure, and I'll come to you now, Subhrangshu, because the research seems to indicate that over the last decade, startups in this city alone have raised upwards of $280 million. All right? And if I were to look at the IIM Calcutta Innovation Park in particular, and you can tell me better as an insider looking out versus an outsider looking in, they were projected to essentially fund over 100 startups, right, over a 3-year time period, with that seed capital price being an average of 25 lakh rupees, right? Is that mission and is that vision on track? And what does it take for the innovation park to actually hand over that 25 lakh rupee check? What are the criteria, very frankly, for the benefit of the entrepreneurs in this room?
Thanks for reminding about that target.
Right?
So
we hold you to it. We hold the institute to it.
Absolutely. The statistics as follows. We have supported more than 500 startups, but funded 130 startups.
And
so
what's
far.
the time horizon?
Time horizon would be 5 years time horizon. Obviously, towards the last 3 years, the pace has increased. Now, these 130 startups, we have funded around 30 crores overall, if we consider that average ticket size. These startups, in turn, have raised more than 2,000 crores follow-on funding from various institutional investors. The cumulative portfolio value would be around 7,800 crores, the market value of the startups. We got exits also.
Right, we want to hear it.
at least 3 profitable exits, one being from Dehat, which is one of the top companies. And we are expecting a few more. But then the objective is for an incubator is not to fund and get exit. Then we are talking about a VC language, right? It's not that. The problem that we are trying to solve is how we can encourage innovation, youngsters coming up with innovative ideas, and convert them to successful business. Doesn't matter whether it's VC fundable or not. I think one thing I would share with all of you, the yardstick to measure a successful startup, I think needs to be revisited. Only if somebody raises a VC funds, he's a successful startup. Is it something really true? That's my point. If you ignore that criteria, I think Kolkata has many more startups who are doing fantastic job, but they have just not raised VC funding. Sometimes they may not want to raise VC funding. Okay?
Well, if that is the yardstick, right, for startup success, maybe I'll bring you in now, Vineet. What is the yardstick, or what should be the yardstick for receiving incubation, for an incubator to actually open its doors to you? You know, is it proof of market? Is it simply proof of concept? Is it profitability? Is it a fully baked, a management team? Is it an entire product suite? What does it take?
I personally feel for incubation, right, there should not be too much of criteria, because when you are too early into a startup, right, all these criteria are good to have, but let's say if you're lacking in one of those, it should be perfectly fine, because that's the role of an incubator, to have the right set of criteria built into the startup over a period of time. So, what I have seen is incubation centers like IIM Calcutta are great, but the kind of awareness which is required to, in founders to access that kind of facilities. See, what's happening is, obviously, like IIM Calcutta will not only fund startups from Calcutta, it will be even from small towns like, Sir said, Bihar, someone is, giving him exit. So there will be startups in all over West Bengal, like I know one in Durgapur, okay, so which has raised funds. It's called Tools Villa. So there will be many in smaller cities also. These people need to have the right kind of access, because what happens in bigger cities, if I am a founder, I'll have access to the ecosystem by default.
Right.
I might not need a incubator all the time. But in smaller cities, they need a lot of hand-holding. They need the right set of employees, right set of technology access, etc. So I think that information dissemination is much more important in smaller towns and cities, from where real innovation can come up, real problem solving can come up.
Fair enough, fair enough. And Alok, I think this is a great time to bring you in, because the fact of the matter remains that entrepreneurs often have myopia and that they fall in love with their product, and yet the fiscal management can fall way behind, right? So, given your exposure at Taxmantra Global, to what extent does that fiscal management play a critical role in that startup seeing the light of day?
Thanks, Pooja, and thanks ET Now for having me today. See, let me first touch upon on the point in terms of why Kolkata, right?
Please.
So I was working with the Big Four till 2010 in Bangalore, and I had all the option to start my venture in 2010 in Bangalore or Mumbai, right? But I came back and started from Kolkata, and I don't have any regret as of today, right? And there are reasons why, and I think many times we talk about that Kolkata doesn't have enough VCs and a lot of investable startups. But what I have felt, because interestingly what we have built at Taxmantra Global is a global firm wherein we are delivering services from Kolkata, wherein 75% of our people in Kolkata, but we're delivering to UK, US, and Singapore and Dubai. And we realize that startups which are in Bangalore or in Hyderabad or in Mumbai, many times they get distracted because of too much of noise around them. And I have seen that. So many times, initially first 3 years, you need lot of noise-free surroundings around you where you can build something. You don't get distracted by unnecessary funding initially.
So like you're incubated within an incubator.
Right.
Okay.
Now coming back to the corporate governance and finance discipline, see, again, what's happening in last 3-4 years, lot of news about what's happening in startups, the challenge with corporate governance, the challenge with the way they behave after they raise capital. I think, and that's where I think discipline needs to come in. And I feel that it's a collaborative and collective effort of both. on the VCs also and startup also. What I have seen that many times you raise capital, but you don't build enough internal systems and control, and wherein in the name of flexibility, many times, and I will be very candid, in the name of flexibility for founders, they kind of don't implement the right controls and governance. For example, we all sign affirmative rights in the shareholder agreement, right?
Right.
How many of investors actually go and talk to startup that what is your quarterly budget and are you spending as per your quarterly budgets, right? So we as an ecosystem, we all are at fault. If you talk about the latest news or recent developments in last 3-4 years, that's one thing. But having said that, I mean, the kind of money we have raised, we have 100+ unicorns. I think this will come up. We are maybe 2 decades behind US in terms of where we were. But I think there is a difference between business failing and difference between a scam, right? If a business fails, that is perfectly fine, yeah? But if it fails because of scam, then there is a problem, right? So I think that needs to be resolved, and I think I'm very hopeful that that will happen for startups. And that's where many times, if you have to be in the news, if you have to have good news every quarter. Now that's a challenge, right? Or you have to have a good news every month, which you need to report to your investors. That's a challenge. So I think that's where the learning uptake has to happen.
It's time for a short break, but our coverage of the ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12 Kolkata Springboard continues on the other side of the break. So don't go anywhere. Kolkata is a city where tradition and innovation are not at odds with one another. In fact, they seamlessly converge and coexist to create an all the more conducive business environment. That is what brings us to the city of Kolkata tonight. So welcome back as we listen in to our continued coverage.
Looking forward to it, a lot of optimism in the air. It certainly seems to be the case. And coming back to you now, Raghav. Now, if we were to talk sunrise sectors, all right? If we were to broadly just take a look at the very fabric of this city, you know, Calcutta seems to be the capital of social reform, all right? In the sense that, for example, commercial theater is incredibly popular, largely to disseminate socially relevant messages. You take a short walk in the city, you can see all of the political graffiti that also has a message to share. It's home to the arts in all its forms, drama, design, music, poetry, and the list goes on. So do some of these sort of traditional sectors that are well outside the realm of tech, how much opportunity is there here for us and for Calcutta to really capitalize on its natural, inborn, inherent strengths?
So I think Calcutta has a lot of industries which are inherent to Calcutta itself. So for example, like IDFC mentioned jute, right? So around jute, there are a lot of products that can be created around the jute industry. Then you have the tea industry. In fact, from our accelerator, we actually incubated one company called Tea Raja, which is blending different kinds of teas and selling it online. So tea industry. Then you have a lot of steel industry, right? So now decarbonization is a big thing. So decarbonization, for example, JSW Steel is setting up a massive plant in India for decarbonized steel, green steel. So, you know, green steel can be a big thing. Technologies around that. Then you have engineering companies here. You have a lot of real estate. So things like, you know, AR, VR in real estate. How do you use that to, you know, speed up the pace and increase transparency?
Well, then I've got a follow-up question for you there, because I think the perception is that the barriers for small businesses or startups are almost always the least when it comes to tech. So in some of the industries that you've just described, do small businesses even stand a chance? What are the barriers to entry like?
No, I think, so I am now a partner in a Swiss company as well called Anchor Group, where we do a lot of cross-border transactions on the industrial space, and where we have funded very small entrepreneurs who have like 5 people in their team. So I don't think there's any, for example, there's funding available from family offices, HNIs in Calcutta, even at the very early stage, at the seed stage.
Far ahead of profitability, correct?
Yeah, at the idea stage. Then there is local support now from the West Bengal government in certain sectors where you can get incubation space and maybe 10 lakh grants. You have educational institutes. So I don't think now there is a lack of infrastructure or opportunity for small companies to start their business.
All right, if that's very heartening to hear, because I'll come to you now, Subhrangshu. Do you echo the same sentiment that awareness is the bottleneck and not necessarily, capital, right? And if you do, then for the benefit of our viewers, our, audience members, what are the resources available at their disposal? Whose doors can they really knock on? What are the industry bodies that represent their voice?
If I look at the ecosystem for entrepreneurs now, it has evolved quite a bit. To start a business, you hardly need any money now. I'll tell you the reason. If you want to develop a prototype, which is the very first step in a business, you have incubators, technology incubators, which will offer you space, labs for free, mentoring. So you hardly need any money to do your prototyping. Next, if you want to take the prototype to the next stage, there are a lot of government grants available. For example, Startup India Seed Fund, Department of Science and Technology Fellowship, Nidhi Prayas, Nidhi SSS, multiple things, Ministry of IT, plenty of options through which you can raise grants to do your R&D and take it forward. And once you have reached the commercialization stage, then you also have seed fund. So we have at least 300 incubators in the country waiting to support startups, not only from a knowledge, technology, but also from a funding perspective. The first 20 lakhs, I would say, 25 lakhs, okay?
Sure.
Now, if you allow me, I'll add a few points on
Please, sir.
West Bengal, the opportunity for West Bengal here. You mentioned jute, right? So West Bengal, if you look at our traditionally, we are very strong in, West Bengal had a very strong circular economy. Do you agree? If you look at our home, how we reused, that's by culture. Now, if you look at the current trend, what is going to be driving the next decade? That is climate change, sustainability, circular economy, right? Now, we have missed the bus in terms of technology, various kind of technologies earlier. Now, this is the domain where nobody has been a champion so far. I think it's time for West Bengal, Kolkata startups to immediately jump into it, grab the opportunity and lead that change. And I'm very optimistic, I'll tell you why. As we are talking, we are running a West Bengal Startup Accelerator supported by the MSME department, Government of West Bengal. 60% of the startups that are there, at least half of the startups, are actually working in sustainability space. I'll give you examples, what kind of areas. Alternative to plastics, okay? Shark Tank funded, by the way. Then treatment of water coming out of hospitals, chemical industry. Then plastics into various construction material, like paver block and all those kind of stuff. Also, various aspects of fashion, leveraging the large artisans that are there who are using sustainable. Traditionally, they have been using sustainable, methods, processes, but now in between they have been forced to convert to modern techniques, but then they are bringing it back and making it more sustainable. So I am very optimistic that we don't need to copy what has happened in Bangalore or Delhi and chase them. West Bengal has some strength already. If we just revive that, focus on that, we can lead the startup scenario at least in one segment, which I feel is climate change, sustainability, and circular economy.
Excellent. Fascinating. Fascinating. Absolutely. And there's two sectors that I want to come to you now with, Vineet, that Subhrangshu perhaps has not yet mentioned. There's Fintech. I mean, of course, Calcutta is home to, I think it's Allahabad Bank, Bandhan Bank, the list goes on. And then you can't possibly be in this city without trying everything from Shondesh to Roshgula to Mishti Dohi. So food tech. So from fintech to food tech, does the city of Kolkata stand a chance?
Absolutely. Calcutta does stand a chance, and we are in fintech space only. Yep. All right. So StockEdge is now, it has around 6 million people in the country use StockEdge, and that's from Calcutta. We are a 250 people team, right? And if you look at the entire finance space in Calcutta, the number of chartered accountants will be one of the highest, right? We have Taxmantra, which is also out of Calcutta. So, Calcutta is a space where a lot of accounting related work has gone into already. And now a layer of technology is being added there, right? So we can have the next tally from Calcutta as in, a new startup. Similarly, on taxation, we have multiple startups which are already working into that area. So anything which has to do with the world of finance and fintech, we have M-Pocket, we have multiple startups which are already done good, raised capital, and doing good in their space. In terms of food, we have Wow Momo, right? And we have a lot of smaller startups which are raising some amount of funding here and there. We have something called Wow Puchka, which was just raising funds and have raised some amount of fund already, right? So we will have a series of such startups coming out of Calcutta because naturally Calcutta is good with food, right? And Calcuttans really appreciate good food. So anything which is started here will catch up fast. So both these industries have a great future. And just to add, to the point of where else we have an edge, see, startups thrive where there is a problem and you are solving that problem, right? So if you look at the problem which are very, very typical to the city, there are a lot of problems which can be solved. Like for example, if you look at how we treat our waste. So sir talked about circular economy and sustainability. So the waste management really needs to be fixed, right? There is one site, there was a big problem in Howrah because of, the dumping site there is extra load on that, right? And the pipeline got leaked because of that. And there was no water for 3 days for at least, 40 lakh people in that area. So the whole idea is you can solve these problems. That's number one. Calcutta is the slowest moving city in the country, right? It moves at 17 kilometers per hour. There can be a lot of innovation on how traffic is managed. It's the noisiest city amongst the larger metros, right? So you can have innovation on how to reduce that noise, right? And that can be sold to the whole country because the same problem is there in all the metropolitan cities.
Sure.
It's up to you how you look at these problems. Do you see an opportunity in these problems? And the list goes on and on, right? So the whole idea is the entrepreneurs of today, I would request, like sir said, that we can be the number one in sustainability, circular economy, and the areas which are disturbing the city and cities like us. And let's work on that. And there is so much of scope. And we need not necessarily have only revenue and profits as the metrics to measure. We need to have different metrics in these cases, which is basically the social impact which you are creating. And there are people who are doing that.
And with that, I want to thank all of our panelists, Raghav, Vineet, Subhrangshu, and Alok.
Well, that concludes our coverage of the ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12 Springboard here in the city of Kolkata. I'm Pooja Jain signing off. Thanks for watching.